Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
USAA.
This episode is brought to you by Twizzlers. Long day, late night, feeling a little bored? Twizzlers is the ultimate sidekick for any moment of the day, no matter what kind of day you're having. The perfect level of sweet and a fun excuse to sit back and relax. Unwind with Twizzlers. To buy now, visit Hersheyland.com/Twizzlers.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Hello, welcome to Unequal Sequel. My name is Dave, and I'm one of the two hosts of this glittery podcast.
Oh, and I'm Rich, and I'm the other host of this glittery podcast. Think of me as Brennan to Dave's Dale, because we just became best friends.
Oh, I like that one. The premise of Unequal Sequel is very simple. We ask our guests their best ever sequel, worst ever sequel, and finally their dream sequel. And
of course, we quite often drift off and talk about other things, sometimes movies, sometimes life in general.
And sometimes we do like to drop big fat spoilers, and this is by accident. So if we mention a film you haven't seen, just skip ahead, go out to your car, check the tyre pressure. You'll be surprised how low they are, and then come back to the episode. Because on today's episode, we are joined by Giles Alderson.
Giles is a brilliant director, producer, screenwriter, and co-host of the Filmmakers podcast, which is brilliant and has 400 episodes. We've just passed the 400 mark. Go and give it a listen.
We're very excited to sit down with Giles and chat all things sequels with him.
These are Giles Alderson's Unequal Sequels. Enjoy.
Anyway, I've got a quick question here to warm the brains up. So it was, what is the first sequel that you remember seeing and getting excited about when you were younger?
The first sequel I remember seeing, it's probably got me Back to the Future 2. I did love the first movie. I was very excited about seeing it. Terminator 2 is probably the biggest moment I remember, but in terms of the first one I saw, probably Back to the Future 2. Yeah, just because I remember it was on the back of cereal packets, and in cereals you could collect these little booklets, these little pamphlets, and there were 6 of them. And I remember asking my dad and my sister, because I had all 5, I had 5, I didn't have the 6, of these little pamphlets. There were mini comics. I wish I still had them. They're probably worth something.
Are.
And they were inside Rice Krispie cereal packets or cornflakes. I don't know which one. So I said to my dad and sister, there's one missing. I wasn't going to the supermarket. I didn't want to. So I said, don't pick one from the front. Just pick randomly a Rice Krispies from the back. Anyway, they came back. The Rice Krispies got really excited. I was like, oh my God. And it was the right one. It was the right comic in there. And it was unbelievable. I had all 6. I was so happy, so proud. So yeah, Back to the Future 2 was a big sort of moment for me. I remember it vividly. So that's the one.
And were the comics the story of the movie, or were they?
Yeah, story of the movie done in Beano style.
Oh, wow.
You know, it was that kind of.
Really cool.
Yeah, I know. It's so cool. I probably thumbed the shit out of them and ruined them. So they were probably useless. But I still really like them, and I wish I'd kept them as just some sort of little cool memento.
Did you get to see Back to the Future 2 in the cinema then?
I think I did. I might have been too young, but I'm pretty sure I felt like I did. I think it was like a PG, right?
I think so.
So I think so. So I think I did go to the cinema. I'd be surprised if I did.
I bet that would have been a moment. And like you said, you've seen the first one at that point, had you?
Yeah, absolutely. And fell in love with that. I mean, what a movie. It's just an incredible movie. In fact, for my stepson's 10th birthday, we hired a cinema, got a load of his mates who'd never seen the movie, and put it on in a friend's cinema. So it wasn't too expensive. And we put it on for them for the first time. The opening, they're all chucking sweets, messing around. By 6 minutes in, deadly silent, laughing, enjoying it. And I got to watch it through their eyes. It was incredible.
Amazing.
Such a moment.
Was that the first time that you saw it?
Yeah. Most of it, I think everyone in that who were younger than I was. It's the first time they'd seen it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever
Quite
seen Back
incredible.
to the Future on the cinema. And
I don't want to make you feel bad, but I literally just Googled Back to the Future cereal box comics, and there's one on eBay for £1,250.
You serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
Oh
yeah.
my God. And is that all 6, or is
It's
that just one of them?
Yeah,
That's
it's
just
one
one?
comic. Just one.
Oh my God! So
Yeah.
imagine having the whole collection. That hurts. But only in a good way. I mean, look, I wouldn't have had it in the packet or anything. It wasn't sealed. It was, literally thumbed through. Was it cornflakes or was it Rice Krispies? Can you remember which
I
one?
don't know. I
did it
just
say?
it just says Kellogg's on here, so I'm not sure which
Kellogg's,
one it is.
yeah,
but
one of them.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's graded, so it's like properly been looked after.
Oh,
kind of
okay.
thing, but
Yeah, whereas
still,
mine wouldn't have been. I'd have drawn on
that's
it,
a
coloured
lot
it
of
in.
money.
It's a lot of money, isn't it, for a little comic that was in a cereal packet? In fact, I remember it so vividly. And the fact my sister and dad picked the right one. Honestly, it was unbelievable. I think I got loads of 4. The loads of number 4 kept coming, and you didn't get cereal very
No,
often.
exactly.
So,
I can see you just forcing it down you just to get another one.
Pretending.
I don't even like Rice
Oh, look.
Krispies. I just
Yeah,
want them.
eat them.
It was probably the whole Kellogg set, like, was Ricicles. They don't do Ricicles anymore.
Ricicles.
They
I think
don't.
they got banned, didn't they? Too
I
much
used to
sugar.
love I would still have Ricicles if I was allowed, like if they were around.
Me too. Yeah, your frosted shreddies are the closest you can get now.
Yeah, they've ruined cereal in a way.
Yeah.
This is why I like when I'm going to America or Canada, where my
Full of
in-laws
sugar.
and
Feels so
the cereal aisle is just like a dream.
Yeah.
And I go honestly, I go a bit crazy when I go there. I'm like, I pick about 4.
You're never going to eat all these.
I will give it a go.
I'll give it a damn good go. It's just picking the right milk,
Yeah.
isn't it? That's the problem. in
What were the
America.
ones with little marshmallows in? What are they called?
Oh yes,
They were
weren't
like little coloured
a form of
marshmallows.
Ricicles?
What the Lucky Charms?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, Lucky Charms. I swear there was
No, I
one
think it was
before
the-
Lucky Charms.
there
though.
was. It was
Yeah.
a UK version because we didn't have Lucky
No.
Charms in the UK. I think there was a UK version of the marshmallow one. I remember that too.
Yeah,
I got banned.
they didn't
as
really
well.
taste like marshmallows. They sort of tasted like
No.
styrofoam. But it was.
But when you were a kid, you'd take
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah,
was awful.
exactly.
Colourful sugar stuff.
That's
That'll
incredible.
do.
So I'm
Mm.
guessing from Back to the Future 2 to Terminator 2,
Yeah.
there's a bit of a leap.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
it Terminator 2 more when you were a bit older?
Yeah, well, I remember queuing around the block. It was the Odeon Cinema in Harrogate, and it was just the place to be. And we were too young, but I think it was a 12 when we were like 11. I'm pretty sure that was right.
Terminator
But
2
it
not
was-
an 18? Why have I?
No, maybe it is, or maybe it was 15. Was it 15 and we were 14? I actually
Because
can't remember.
all
I
I'm
know
thinking
I
of
was
is
too
the
young.
scene when
I
what's
think it
her
was a
face,
15.
gets destroyed by a nuclear bomb and she turns into a skeleton.
I mean, that's pretty horrific. The
Sarah Connor,
what is it, the not knife or something through the face as well is
Yeah.
pretty bad. There's a few bits that are pretty horrific.
It was a 15.
I do remember being too young.
Yeah.
It was a 15.
Yeah.
So we were 14. So yeah, it was a few years after Back to the Future too. So therefore, I remember honestly, this queue was unbelievable. We were like, oh no, because we didn't book.
No one
No one
books.
booked in those days. So we queued and we queued and we queued, and we got in just. No one questioned our age, and we were over the moon. And it was just amazing. It was such a buzzy experience. This old Odeon cinema, they've redone it now, and it was proper stinky, and there was crisps and sweets and sick all over the floor. It was that kind of
Yeah.
place, just perfect cinema fodder for memories flooding back.
Yeah.
I remember seeing E.T. there and crying and having to run out. So good memories, right? It was
In happy tears or sad tears?
sad tears. No, I was frightened the shit out of me.
E.T.?
It was absolutely frightening. Yeah, E.T. Yeah, and when he was in the, I'm pretty sure it was the bit where he's in the bed, in the
Oh, when he's
hospital bed, and they're dying, and they put spoiler, and does he die? And they're literally doing all the tests on him, and they've got all the white sheets around. I just couldn't take it. I think I just cried, and whoever's with me just took me out. Probably. Really bad. They missed the end of the film.
I really miss those old cinemas. Those
Yeah.
old sticky
Yes.
carpeted,
Yeah,
smell
sticky
like
carpet.
smoke,
Yes.
kind of.
Well, they smoked in there,
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
they? They had beers in there. They smoked, and they had different levels as well. They
I used
seem to still do.
bunk
but-
off school as a teenager and go and smoke in
Yeah,
the cinema.
and that's the place you could go and
You
smoke.
go
The
to
best thing
hide.
it's true. Best thing about those cinemas is that if you were clever, you could hide and then see the next showing. And it was never the same film.
Yeah.
So therefore you could sneak around the back passages that took you out into the exit, into the street, and you could hide there for a little bit by the smelly bins. And if you were clever, you could sneak back in.
Absolutely. 100%.
Oh, the joy to be young.
I remember seeing a Hudson Hawk, right? This is quite good. Went to see her. We only went because we thought we'd be able to maybe chat to girls. Now, how stupid are we at, I don't know, 12, thinking this would be a place to talk to girls? We're probably 14. I think in my mind, I said 12 because it was so stupid. Why would any girl in any right mind, when two boys sit next to them in a cinema screen when Hudson Hawk is playing of all films, and then go, oh yeah, I'll have a conversation with you two in the dark. I don't know who the hell you are. Madness. I love that film.
Is that the Bruce Willis one?
Again.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a Bruce Willis Melbourne with Richard E. Grant. It's just
it's great.
Crazy.
It's really good.
It's great. It is great.
I mean, I say it's really good. I haven't watched it since about 1997, but
yes,
it was good then.
Yeah, it was good then. And Richard E. Grant in his book describes it brilliantly. I think it's With Nails. He talks about how fantastic that being on set of that movie was, and how suddenly he was being paid lots of money, and it was just different level. So yes, that book is amazing, by the way, on acting and filmmaking.
Is that what was the film that got you like into film then? Was it Terminator 2? Was it E.T.? Was it Back to the Future?
No, none of them. No, none of them at all. I was an actor when I first started. So for me, I just loved film. I love the idea of it. I love theatre. I love the fact that you could maybe do that as a job, but I just didn't think you could. It was either football or acting. That was what I wanted to do. And I was at Bradford City Schoolboys as a kid, played for Harrogate Town first team, and just thought, oh, that's the route I'm doing. And when I dislocated my shoulder, the school sort of, I don't know, careers person who comes in and makes you tap on a computer and says, hey, you're going to be a builder, You're like, yeah, this computer's not really right, is it? This ain't AI. Said, I've heard you're in the school play. You should go on this performing arts course. And that was it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, suddenly fell in love massively with the idea of this being a job. Yeah,
Amazing.
So there's no film that got me into it necessarily. It was just the idea of that wonderful world of escapism and the fact that you can play anything and be someone not yourself.
Yeah,
quite special.
It's very cool. I'd love to be an actor, but there's a real problem that I'm rubbish at acting. So
I don't think that stopped everyone.
So
like me, for instance.
I don't think you're as bad as you think you are, Dave. You were a brilliant presenter when we were at uni. Everyone wanted Dave to present their pieces to camera. He was so good at that stuff, like a little ginger Dermot O'Leary.
That's true.
I can take it. It's good.
Don't worry. I did, Giles. I also probably did that just to girls as well, though, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Any excuse to just try,
sure, I'll do this.
Yeah, I'll do this. Actually, had no game.
I had to dress up like an idiot for most of them, Rich. So
you did,
exactly.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
One time, Rich made me dress up like a skater boy, and he gave me fake lip rings and stuff. And
I don't remember that.
I do. I never forget.
Yeah, he would.
I remember knocking you out by accident when we were dressed as boxers.
Yeah, that was in one of my projects.
Right, hang on. So you two made films as well?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We went to the University of Gloucestershire, I should say, and we both I did video production. I can't even remember now. And Rich,
and I did.
Sounds about right.
Rich did
media and film. Yeah.
And both our projects, we always had to make stuff, and we would always drag each other into each other's little projects, basically. And I think everything video-wise we made, you will see us pop up in each other's. A group of us, our friends and stuff. So
that's really cool. My dad had an old cine camera, and he used to film us as you do with a cine camera. And then he'd play it on in the loft on a screen.
Christmas Vacation.
Pretty much like Christmas Vacation. Yeah, National Lampoon's all over it. Chevy Chase in there with us. My dad looks a bit like Chevy Chase, and it had that feel to me. There must have been something about hearing the whir of that camera and something magical. I just wish I'd picked it up myself. I just never did. I just never felt. For years, I fought away from being a director or producer. I wanted to be an actor. That was it. And I was being lucky enough to be in some great films like, Damned United. I was also in I Want Candy, a load of horrors, load of great indie movies, and load of telly and stuff. It just didn't quite tick over into the next level. But people always said, you should direct, you should produce, you should, do that side. And I just didn't want to, it was like, I was so focused on being an actor. But as soon as I did, I just loved it. I was like, oh, I see now. Yeah, this is incredible.
I think a lot of directors
being behind
like
the
that.
camera and creating that world, just as an idea in your head and turning it into something real that people can watch and enjoy, or hopefully enjoy, is unbelievable. There's nothing for me that comes close. So seeing my dad with that cine camera and watching those, it must just been ingrained in me that you can create something with just a box and a bit of, film cameras.
I just love being creative in the end of the day. That's what kind of led me to the podcast, because I went to film, like, university, the film stuff, and then worked in the industry for a long time, loads of little jobs and stuff, and just felt I wasn't really getting my hands on anything creative wise. I was just, a lot of the time I was making tea for years and years and years. And then eventually I was like, let's just make a podcast. At least I've got control of that.
And then we get to be critics and criticise everyone who does make stuff.
Does it and goes, God, why did it so badly? Well, there's many reasons.
We try and be kind.
We try and be kind. Yeah. No, but having that control is lovely. And I think that's one of the main reasons I loved directing, producing, writing my own stuff, creating stuff, was because you could control it. You weren't worried about being on the cutting room floor. You weren't worried about them using a take, Coronation Street, where you'd forgotten your lines. That you weren't worried about, stuff like that, because you could sit in the edit and go, not that take. You're like, dead.
Yeah.
And it's so much more in control of your life. And that's, I think, what I need.
Amazing. Okay. Well, let's get into this film business now. Okay, let's get into it. What is your best ever sequel?
I struggled with this question, and I know that's what this podcast is. I didn't, because there's so many, right?
Yeah.
The list goes on with incredible sequels, and to try and quantify that with just one was really difficult. So I did send you a list of films, and you just said you wrote back down, pick one.
I said they're wonderful picks. Can you pick one?
You did, yeah. Can you just pick one?
We can talk about all the honourable mentions, though.
Right. Which order do you want me to do it? Do you want me to go straight?
Go with the honourables, and then we'll go for the big one.
Okay, so the honourables, right? I'm a big fan of Mission Impossible. I love them. I think they're brilliantly well made. I think Tom Cruise is absolutely genius at what he does as a filmmaker and an actor. So Mission Impossible was, Mission Impossible 2 is excellent.
Oh.
I also like Harry Potter. I think it was just such a phenomenon. It was just such an incredible, and all those sequels you could say are brilliantly better and just brilliantly hook you in. And just the fact they use different directors apart from towards the end, just incredible to do that and create the magic and make us believe and almost forget the books. Wow. So that one, In the Mood for Love, is just one of the things that I really, when I was trying to direct, was one of the movies that I watched.
I don't think I know that one.
Oh, what is that one?
It's a fantastic movie about love and hope and loss, and it's not in the English language, so it gives this, and there's hardly any dialogue. It's just a delight, and it's worth checking out because it's incredible.
I'll write that down.
Okay. And what's it the sequel to? It's
a sequel to another movie that was before it that I should have written down. So now I just feel foolish. Someone will be shouting at this podcast device.
I'm going to find out. I'll look it up and we'll find out. Is it Korean?
Embarrassment.
Is it Korean
yes.
film? Yeah.
In the Color of Money is. I think again it's because I was growing up around that time and loving Tom Cruise and just thinking, who is this guy? What an incredible performer! And The Color of Money is just fantastic.
I think we're going to have to get you on Dave's other podcast. So Dave does another podcast called The Great Tom Cruise Cake Quest, where he's trying to get Tom Cruise to send him a Christmas cake by reviewing all of his movies on a podcast.
Yes. And Tom Cruise should do. I think he should.
Thank you. I've only done one episode so far, but thank you.
But yes, he will.
He's a nice guy.
I've heard he will. It's the kind of stuff he does. Just to go, he'll be doing a big press tour or whatever. Do you know what? I've just got to go to this guy's house and deliver him a cake. Imagine him turning up now in that room, knocking on the door.
I would lose my shit. No, I'll be super cool about it, Giles. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, of course. You'd have to be. I mean, what else can you do in that situation? Run away. Run like Tom Cruise. Deadpool 2, we watched this again with my stepsons, and we laughed so much in the cinema. Like, it was just a real bonding moment. So sometimes movies that you really like, depending on where you're at in your life and what's happening. So some people's favorite movies might not be yours just because of where you're at. And my favorite movie probably is Magnolia. I haven't watched it for a while, so it might not be anymore. But it was that time of my life where I loved that, and I loved what Paul Thomas Anderson had done, and the behind the scenes of the movie just fantastic at the time when none of those were really about. I've gone off track massively with that list. Back to the Future 2 is in there, of course. But the one I went with is Silence of the Lambs.
It's a great shout.
Great pick.
And it's the first time it's been picked, I think.
I think because people are kind of not aware that it's a sequel of kind. Of kind.
Yes. Yeah. And I think maybe that's why I've cheated a little bit with that one.
It's fine. We've allowed prequels and all sorts, so don't worry. It's fine.
We've allowed the Ghostbusters 2016, and we're still not quite sure what that is. So, but at least on the Silence of the Lambs, it's another Hannibal Lecter story.
Yes, it's the story. It's the continuation of the story, and therefore, technically, it is a sequel. Take it. Yeah, even though the first movie, I think it came out in 81. When was it? 86 Manhunter, right? I think it didn't do very well. I don't think it made much money. I think since it has, and I think Silence of the Lambs gave it that impetus to people to go back and watch it. But I think at the time it was a bit of a flop. And as far as I remember rightly, that's how the rights then passed back to, or were able to be bought up by, was it Gene Hackman and the producer who actually ended up doing it? So Dino De Laurentiis, I think he owned the rights. The movie didn't make much money, so he just sort of gave them away as some sort of deal with something else. So the rights became free, and then it became the most hot property in town with Jonathan Demme doing it. And I love that. I love the story behind it as well. It's just kind of cool.
Yeah. Did you see that one in the cinema?
I did. And at the time, it was kind of the only place you could watch a movie like that as well. And it blew me away, and it frightened me to hell. Yeah. People say it's not a horror movie. It's a horror movie. It's a horror movie. I think they didn't want to label it like that at the time because of Oscars and awards, and horror movies definitely didn't do well at the time. So they didn't label it as a horror. They labeled it as a thriller. They labeled it as a sort of a psychotic thriller, a revenge, a killing type movie. Or a drama. They definitely didn't say this is a horror.
Yeah.
This is, here comes.
Yeah, it was definitely done as a thriller, wasn't it? It was definitely wasn't kind of pitched as a horror, but it really is. Well, you must have been far too young to watch that at the movie at the cinema. Like, so it was what, 91?
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you. But no, I whether I watched it I watched it at the cinema in 91. I must have done. Wait, now you've got me thinking about it.
So no wonder it scared you.
Yeah, I reckon we might have snuck into that. Maybe that's why it scared the hell out of me. Or maybe I'm getting it wrong. When your memory, you think you watched it in the cinema. Maybe I didn't.
I remember watching Pulp Fiction in the cinema when I was like 13 and being just sitting there going, I'm too young for this. I'm not old enough to watch this. Because I can imagine the feeling you must have had watching Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
Well, the good thing about Silence of the Lambs, it really gets under you, under you for a while. It's not
under your skin. I like your pun there.
It builds and builds, and I think a lot of people forget how little Anthony Hopkins is in it, really, and how much he stole that movie from Jodie Foster and everybody.
He's incredible in the movie. It's the first. I think it's the first or the third time the movie had won the Big Five at the Oscars. So it was Best Picture, Best Actors, Best Screenplay and Best Director. So that's a five. And there's only two of the movies before that had won that accolade, which is unbelievable when you think about it. That's you go, wow, it did. But Anthony Hopkins, for the time he was on screen, blew it out the water, and he wasn't the first choice. As you can imagine, he wasn't the first choice. But now you can't imagine anyone else doing it. You can't see anyone else doing it. When you think of that film, you imagine him, right? Yeah. And that mask as well, and the fact that wasn't the first choice mask either. And you just that's what I love about filmmaking and how things can change on the dime. Or, the perfect example of that is, was it? It's the William Shatner mask that they turn inside out on
Halloween. Halloween.
Yeah. It's things like that are just because the person couldn't find anything. Okay, that'll do. Turn it inside out, and that can create something so iconic. But filmmaking's like that the whole time when you're on set. You're always finding moments, things that don't work. You have to change. You have to adapt so quickly to make things work,
especially with props and stuff as well. I'm like working with props on Midsummer Murders. That's my bit of fame.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And
cool.
The props guys are like, we've got this spray glue that we found in B&Q because it makes really good cobwebs. Like it looks really like cobwebs on camera. So just get spray glue on like notice boards and stuff in churches.
And then they come back after you've gone from filming, you've forgotten to take it away. And some old lady's putting up her nose when her fingers get stuck. Oh, God. That was you.
That was me. I stuck an old lady to a church notice board.
I mean, now you say it like that.
Did you play a dead body? Was that the other Rich?
The other Rich was dead body. I was a donkey.
Oh, okay.
I played a donkey. So, yeah.
Donkey?
Yes, yeah.
As in a donkey, like the back end.
So essentially, it was the camera, it was a point of view camera shot of the donkey, but they wanted like the top of the donkey's head. So I was the top of the donkey's head. I had to like have the little donkey ears and run around while they filmed over the top of my head. Like, the things you do as a runner, honestly, it's ridiculous.
It's mad.
Yeah. You wouldn't believe. If you're on set, you get roped into all sorts of stuff. If there's not the right extras there, the right background artists, you're in it. You know what I mean? It's like crew are in so many movies just because you need someone and you're cheaper than you're already paying you. So could you mind? You're in this scene now. Please act accordingly.
Brilliant.
I love it.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah. You talking a minute ago about making decisions quickly. I think this one famously like made the last minute decision to make Anthony Hopkins like stand up in the middle of the room when Clarice comes around the corner and him just like standing there instead of like sitting down or something. And that image is just burnt into my brain kind of thing.
It's amazing because if you look at that shot now, the dolly is so shaky. It's not a smooth dolly at all. It's clearly the floor wasn't, I don't know. Yeah. But if you watch the shot now, the camera's moving all over and it's clearly camera. It's not purpose. And you watch that shot, but your eyes are focusing so much on the prison cell. When you come around that corner as her POV, Clarice's POV, there he is stood there. And it's just, so you can't take your eyes off him from that moment. So it's so much better. I think it was his decision, wasn't it? He said, no, I want to be present. I know she's coming. And if I'm sat in the corner, it weakens me. This way it makes me stronger. And again, these little choices, these little moments, these little things, so powerful. And I think another one of his choices was to look almost directly down the lens as well when he's talking to her. Hers is a bit further off. If you notice, it makes you feel uneasy. It's a clever director trick sometimes to make the audience feel uneasy. They don't know why they feel uneasy, but it feels like they're not really looking at each other, but yet he's looking at us as the audience. And that kind of thing is just what makes this movie so special, so incredible.
When he's looking at you as well, it is.
Yeah, it's piercing. Yeah. And he doesn't pretty much blink and he's just there with that look on his face. And I don't know if you saw one of his earlier movies, maybe you did, where he's the puppeteer. He's not the puppeteer, the mannequinist. He's got the what's it called, where you put a
ventriloquist.
Ventriloquist, thank you. And he's playing the ventriloquist in this movie, and he's creepy as hell in this. And he must be about 10 years younger. And now it's a similar sort of stoic, solid, non-blinking, don't move your eyes character, and it's unbelievable.
I loved it. How much of you reckon that's on page, and how much did Anthony Hopkins bring that? Do you think on page that's quite a simple thing?
Yes. Yeah, because you don't have time as a screenwriter to write too much. You can't keep writing. He stands looking menacingly because the reader knows this, but so that might have been there the first time, and then each time you can't keep writing the same thing. So you just kind of move on. You've gathered who he is now in your thoughts. There's also the novel of it as well. So because of that, I believe Anthony read that and said, okay, this is the kind of character he is. And they based it on many serial killers as well, didn't they? About this is who we think he'll be. This is the kind of character he is, and how manipulative he was, and the things he asked for as well. He never used any of them. You thought he might have used a steak bone to get out of the prison. He didn't. He used the pin. So it's things like that are just really clever and really intimate and interesting and make you weirdly
Yeah, kind of rooting for him at the end. It's really weird in that
Right.
scene, which is, I remember watching Science Slams in my cinematic awakening, I'm going to call it, and it was after a period. Like I watched a lot of horror films in a period when I watched like the Friday the 13th and those kind of slashers, but Silence of the Lambs is one of the first ones I realized that horror films can be kind of beautiful at the same point, especially that scene when he escapes the jail, when it's the opera music's going off and the guy's hanged up with a beautiful light. I was like, fucking, this is terrifying, but wow, this is stunning.
It's beauty when we think of horror films, especially in the 80s and stuff. It was slasher, it was video nasty time, and again, that's probably one of the reasons they didn't want to call it horror. It is because that's how you felt about it. That's the image, and yet this was classic music playing. And if you notice, the camera's just on Anthony as well. It's just on Hannibal Lecter, looking down as if you're the person being slashed, and his movements are very orchestrated, like he's conducting the music that's on, and it's vroom, 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 and the slash and the blood on each one of those pumps and noises, and that's what makes it iconic. It's really thought out, this movie. It's really clever. The camera movement, the orchestration of your feeling and pulling you in. I remember the first time I really thought about the Buffalo Bill character and when she puts on the night vision goggles, and it's terrifying because she's got to be there. She can't get out, and what's going to happen to her if so. And she's amazing, Jodie Foster, in the movie, but you also know that this guy's going to eat her alive. He's literally great. It's over. It's done. And that's again what makes this film brilliant. And the performance from Buffalo Bill there is just legendary.
You can sometimes forget about Buffalo Bill's in this movie as well. Sometimes the focus is so much on Hannibal that you forget there's also this again very famous like bit when he dances and whatever, and the lotion bit thrown down there.
It puts the lotion in the basket.
You kind of think it's like two films, and you remember when you watch it, like, fuck, this bit's coming. And like you said, the bit in the house, first time I watched it, I think I was actually screaming at the TV, like, get out, get out. Yeah. He's in there, kind of. That's him. It's kind of like the Zodiac kind of thing.
Yeah, I love Zodiac as well. Zodiac is absolutely, it's long, but
it's worth it.
That the moment when he goes into the
basement,
the house, the basement, and we all go,
that is cinema.
It's cinema, isn't it? I just wanted to say the actor as well. I wanted to say who played Buffalo Bill. Ted Levine. Yeah, he was in Shutter Island as well. And I think there's a bit of controversy about it now because of, the whole he's playing someone who doesn't know his sexuality, though he actually does know who he is. He's just a disturbed man, and that's the way they're thinking about it at the time. He just likes the idea of it. And again, that subject is so difficult and dangerous to play around. So I think now it would be a different movie, which is also why I think it lasts this sort of time and why it's still prevalent and really interesting. But I totally get why it didn't do wonders for the LGBT community, and for that side of it just didn't. But and people did poo-poo that at the time. Now it's good that that's getting a voice and saying, actually, no, this is not necessarily the right way to go about things. But at the time it was still terrifying, beautiful, and had a point. It really had a point. And I think it might be one of, Jonathan Demme's greatest work. He's made some great films, but this to me stands out as just.
It's one of the first movies I ever bought on DVD because I was never allowed to watch it. It was one that I was completely banned from watching when I was a kid, and I really wanted to watch it. And so I didn't see it until I was probably 18. I think.
Oh, really?
I bought it. And I bought it on DVD. I remember the case. I cannot find this DVD. I think an ex stole it, but
wow.
But I had the DVD, and it was like a special edition one and stuff as well. I was like,
made out of skin or something.
That'd be amazing.
It was cardboard, but
but it's like the Rice Krispie packets, isn't it? And the Back to the Future, booklets. It's made out of rubbish, but that doesn't mean it's not worth something.
Absolutely.
I remember watching Science Slams just before I think Hannibal came out. And I remember sitting and watching it with my dad,
The TV series.
No. The second movie. Do you remember
the second movie,
the Julianne
with,
Moore one that came out
Julianne
in
Moore
2000, I think it was.
Right.
And I was too young to go and see it in the cinema, so I had to wait till it came out on VHS, and I bought it because I was so excited. And I remember being bitterly disappointed with the second one, but I remember the ending is great when you've got Ray Liotta with his head open, and there's just Anthony Hopkins like just cutting it, and Julianne Moore walks in like, "Oh, hello."
Well, just
cutting a bit of brain, then makes him eat his own brain and stuff.
Yes, it didn't get as much love, the film, I think, because Silence of the Lambs was so incredible, so mind blowing, and such a cultural moment.
Yes,
to then try and repeat that I think it was really tough, and I think people didn't like that. But it's still a great movie. There's nothing wrong with the movie at all.
Do you think not having Jodie Foster?
I mean, Julianne Moore's incredible.
She's brilliant, but the chemistry between Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster in that first one is something else. You're not quite sure what's going on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. Jonathan Demme did make Philadelphia, which is also an amazing movie. But will it have the legacy of Silence of the Lambs? It's that kind of thing, and that's again another reason why I love this movie and why I'm not going to rush out and watch it every month. But Halloween in moments. But if you catch it on TV, sorry, Dave, if you catch it on TV in those moments and you start watching it, you cannot stop watching it.
Yeah,
that tells you how good this film is.
Yeah.
It pulls you in straight away. Doesn't matter what you've missed. It doesn't matter you didn't see Jodie Foster training at the beginning. It doesn't matter. You're in there and you're watching this incredible movie unfold.
Yeah. I was just going back to is it a thriller or horror? It's a horror because every Halloween someone's dressed up like Hannibal Lecter. So
yeah, it's on all the T-shirts. It's a horror.
It's iconic.
It is. I wonder what it says on IMDb. Does it say it's a horror? No, it says crime drama thriller. There you go. Crime drama thriller. They couldn't promote it as a horror. Just wouldn't have sold as well.
Do you think that's also when it came to that Oscar year? Do you think they really ran away from the horror aspect because horror famously never done well at the Oscars?
Yeah, 100%. Yes. I really feel that they pushed that, and probably they didn't even think it was a horror themselves. Because there were quite a few thrillers being made at that time that were that vibe. It was right on the edge. It was really scary. It was really holding your attention, and then moments of horror. We don't see too much in this movie. We don't physically see, as much as putting skin on, as much as there's blood going on Anthony Hopkins' face. We don't necessarily see it. And the gore horrors of the time were very much, you saw that. So therefore they were like, no, we're art house. There's no way horror wasn't a good word at the time, if you know what I mean. So many amazing horrors were made at the time, but I think that's one of the main reasons they didn't call it.
I mean, you never see him actually eat anyone, do you?
No, you don't.
And
we just believe he does.
That's scary at that age. When I was young, I was like, cannibalism.
Isn't that more frightening as a moviegoer?
Yeah.
To not see it, to have your imagination. Your imagination is the worst thing. When you were a kid, you thought someone was in the cupboard. Someone was in the cupboard. Your imagination played with you so badly. So therefore, I feel that's why movies don't necessarily have to show that. Saying that my first movie did show gore. So what the hell am I talking about? But that doesn't mean you necessarily need it, or our imaginations do run away with us.
Well, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is scary because of the sound effects mainly. I know it's got some horrible scenes in it, but a lot of it is the sound of the chainsaw or that horrible screeching noise or the grunting of Leatherface and stuff. It's amazing what sound effects and audio can do to scare you, to be honest. Even for example, Aliens, for me, the beep with the tracker scares the shit out of me still.
Sound design is one of the most underrated things in film. It's one of my underrated skills. It changes a film. If you watch a film with bad sound design, you go, it's all right, there's nothing to it. You put brilliant sound on it. Suddenly the movie is Star Wars, perfect example.
Yeah.
We've all seen that without proper sound. And we're all going, this is shit, isn't it? It even looks it, and you're going, it's the same picture, but suddenly this looks terrible without the beep beeps, without, Chewie sound, without Darth Vader.
But I say we've all seen a version of David Prowse doing his Yorkshire accent.
He was like West Country, wasn't he?
West Country, I mean, it's...
Yeah. I think my perfect example of that is 127 hours. And
yes,
literally the sound in that movie made me feel physically sick. It wasn't the fact, it wasn't the visual, you know, it's the sound. Like, and still now I can't think about it. Makes me feel icky.
Yeah, I know. You can see each one of those little veins and
Oh God.
Oh yeah, totally. Speaking of I quite like this fact. Do you know when? Oh, there's a special date it was released, Silence of the Lambs, in 1991. Do you know what day it was?
No, I don't. I can find it probably.
Was Valentine's Day.
Oh, was it?
Shut up.
Doesn't that change things? It was released on Valentine's Day.
Come on, darling. We're going to the movies.
I know. I've got this lovely romantic first date. Here we go. Yeah, I'm in here. Silence of the Lambs. This sounds brilliant. She's going to love it. Wait for after.
Annoyingly, in the UK, we didn't get it until May. But, you know.
No, true. But when it was
in
first
America,
released in
Valentine's Day. Yeah.
They were so lucky.
Yeah.
I know. Aren't they lucky? Aren't they lucky? I love that fact, though. It's such a fun one. It's so silly and so stupid. I think it was to do with, wasn't it to do with the previous year? Dances with Wolves had come out on Valentine's Day and done so well for the studio, which was Orion Pictures, I think. So they said, right, the next year we're also going to put one of our big tentpole movies on Valentine's Day because it does well. And that's why it Silence of the Lambs. And they had to wait, think about this, a whole year until the Oscars.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good point, yeah.
That, to hold on, I mean, now our concentration and lifespan is seconds, as goldfish level. But back then, I imagine it was longer because it probably didn't come out on home entertainment at all. So that legacy, and it was in cinemas for months, and wasn't it 9 months? I think it was a record. It was. Wow. It just kept hanging in there. So it
just shows if you leave a film on for long enough, it people will continue to go and see
films, guys. Yeah, just leave it on long enough. Eventually, someone will go see it and maybe like it. Yeah,
it's annoying.
Oh, it's good. And it would have been interesting to see what Michelle Pfeiffer would have done with the role as well, because I think she was originally cast, and Gene Hackman. So you kind of look at Gene Hackman because he got the rights to it. Yeah, and he was going to direct it, but then he was also very likely, I think, saying, "Well, I'm also going to play the role." That's up for debate. I don't know. We'll have to ask him. But
he would have done a good job, to be honest.
To be fair, he would have been good, but it would have been a different at the time, Anthony Hopkins was a bit of a blank slate in terms of we didn't, and I think that's also why it worked as well. Because we hadn't got that previous. Gene Hackman would have known what we were getting a bit, and I think that's one of the reasons he didn't do it in the end. He played a role similar or something quite similar, so the audience would have seen him do that, and we knew what was coming. We know, whereas Anthony Hopkins, we didn't know what he was going to do next. And I also felt Jodie Foster's innocence really carried the movie.
Yes, she's great.
What a lead. Just incredible. Her in Contact as well. Contact is one of my favorite movies. Just
she's a good actress.
She's fantastic. Have you seen the latest True
Detective? Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. Wow, what an actress.
I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Oh, I was really good.
Yeah.
It really, I think there's been a lot of those kind of movies or series recently where it is that sort of Icelandic, Swedish vibe
in the cold.
In the cold. So I feel like the audiences might say, "Oh, I've seen this," but I don't know. It felt fresh and amazing to me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked it.
She was unbelievable in it as this arsehole character. So good. Not seen her do that too much.
No, she's really good in it. She plays the part really well.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. With over 122 million parts, you can make sure your number one ride or die stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply.
What is your most disappointing sequel? So it's not your worst sequel, and it doesn't have to be a bad sequel, but it's the when you went in high and you came out low. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I really should have thought of that.
So a lot of people say like the Matrix sequels, or
I like them. I like the Matrix sequels a lot because you went back into that world again. As much as it gets shit, the same as a lot of sequels get shit. It's just because you're jumping back into that world again. Hannibal, perfect example. People don't like it. Oh, I've seen this and I loved it. You're ruining it for me. Star Wars is another one. With the first lot that came around. Star Wars is probably the one. I mean, if you really had to go,
Yeah.
everyone was looking forward to it. This is going to be great.
You could pick multiple of Star Wars films of what you thought was going to be brilliant, and then turn to be.
Yes, you could. Though I do have an interesting Star Wars story, which I'll share. I have shared this on my podcast once, I think, on the Filmmakers podcast. I think I did share it. But anyway, so I am maybe 6, 7, and Star Wars is at that time was like all my friends had Star Wars figures. I hadn't seen the movie. All I knew was I wanted a Luke Skywalker for Christmas. This was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And there it was on Christmas Day, Luke Skywalker. I was so happy. There he is. Right, that's it. I'm going to get into Star Wars. This is me now. Big thing, playing with it, doing the noises. Didn't really know what I was doing. Some family friend, uncle, came round, called him uncle, whatever, and he had a heart attack and pretty much died in the chair on Christmas Day.
Oh, bloody hell.
Yeah, this story gets dark deep very quickly. The ambulance, so all our presents got gathered up, chucked in bags, and we were chucked upstairs, right? You can imagine this happening.
Chaos.
Ambulance took hours and hours and hours and hours to come, to arrive, and we're upstairs going, oh, our presents, what's happening? Anyway, they resuscitated him. He went, never seen him again, don't know his name, disappeared. When we came back down, this is the important part of the story, bless the guy, is that when we came back, all that was left, when we went through all the rubbish bags, when we went through every single bag, all that was left of my Luke Skywalker figure was his lightsaber. That was it.
Oh, no.
This was an original Luke Skywalker. He was gone. So I decided from that moment on it's not meant to be. So I didn't watch Star Wars for years and years. I just refused.
Wow.
I wasn't for it. So when the sequels, of course I did watch a bit of them and sort of occasionally. So when the new ones came around and I watched them, well, yeah, this is shit. I'm so glad I didn't really get into this. Why is everyone into these? It was only when Rogue One came on, I sat there like a little child, enjoying every single second like I was that 6, 7-year-old boy again. And that to me made me fall in love with Star Wars. And I'm going to show you something. This is what my mum and sister got me for my 45th birthday. 1 minute, there we go.
Oh, wait for this.
Oh,
An
nice.
original Luke Skywalker figure with the lightsaber. Look at that.
Amazing.
Right? Isn't that amazing? They did that for me. It took them ages 4+ on there. So there you go. So that's my little Star Wars story of why those sequels don't mean too much to me, but Rogue One was a very special place in my heart.
Love it.
Yeah, it's a great film. Which ones don't you like then?
The first three. Not the originals that got made.
The prequels.
The prequels, if you like, 1, 2, and 3. There's a brilliant book I read about the making of the second Star Wars in 1979, 1980 or whatever, when they were making it. It's a brilliant little red book of a journalist who was on set the whole time, and he just writes down what he saw and what happened. And I read that and then went, yeah, do you know what? Because just filmmaking and stuff behind it. And then I started to watch all the behind the scenes of the Star Wars and now the brilliant ones on Disney.
Yeah,
you can't help but fall in love with the world and everything about it. So yes, and my good friend Phil Hawkins has now made Star Wars Origins, his Star Wars fan film, which has done incredibly well. And he's just a brilliant guy and deserves love. So yeah, all Star Wars loved up now. Not as much as some, but
brilliant. I know it's I'm just going to give you a lot of people on this question, the disappointing one, they picked Mission Impossible 2. And
scandalous.
A minute ago,
who are these people?
You said you're a fan of Mission Impossible.
I am.
Now, you're a dime a dozen. I'm not going to lie to you.
Are you serious? There's not many people who like it.
Not many people say nice words about it. There's a small little club.
I didn't know this.
In the corner of the internet.
Yeah.
It's definitely, well, everyone, if you say anyone had do the ranking of the Mission Impossibles.
Yes. Yeah.
It's the worst one, right?
But it's not. It's so good. He's got the scar on his face, and he just looks ace. And the motorbikes, and Dougray Scott turned down Wolverine because he was doing this movie because it went on so long.
Yeah,
right. His career's been lost because of this movie.
Yeah, true.
And yet, it's a great movie. John Woo, right?
Yes.
Here's John Woo. There's a lot of hair and sunglasses and slow-mo.
There's an hanging from rocks at the beginning.
That's cool.
Absolutely fantastic.
Is it like Limp Bizkit? Oh no, it's Metallica do the music, didn't they?
Yeah.
No, and Limp Bizkit. It was Metallica, Limp Bizkit. I had the soundtrack. Uncle Cracker was on
see,
there.
Right, you like it too, Dave, right? Is it?
No.
Oh, you were buzzing for a minute with me. now. Rich, we should.
Dave likes all the Mission Impossible movies. So to say that Mission Impossible 2 is his least favourite one is like saying it's his least favourite child, because he does love them all, really.
It's too long.
Whereas
it's too long.
I genuinely think it's bad. I'm sorry.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Do you? What is it that's bad about it? Just generally, what's the thing? Can you pinpoint it in a way? Because I want to know. I'm like,
I think it probably is the direction. Actually, I think it's the choices that John Woo makes in that movie. I'm not like, isn't
it famously he made like a 4-hour cut, and then the studio were like, you've got to get this down a bit, and he turned it into like a 2-hour 15 or whatever it was.
I think I don't think Do Gray Scott's great in it either. I think I think if you look at the difference between Do Gray Scott in 2 and Philip Seymour Hoffman in 3, it's night and day.
But different movies. Do Gray Scott was also trying to be a leading man, and therefore he was playing that kind of character. And John Woo probably at the time, I think it was his first American language film, so probably wasn't giving too much direction that made too much sense. I don't know. I wasn't there. Who knows? He probably did who knows? But maybe that's the reason it was very convoluted in some way. But I'm a big fan of movies. Right, I love people who get out there and make something and do it and
that's
their slant on it. And it's a John Woo movie. You know what you're getting. You're going in expecting these big action set pieces, and you get these big action set pieces. And it's Tom Cruise hanging from that rock, and it's Tom Cruise. Because I'm going to go on.
Go for it.
Like in the first Mission Impossible, there's hardly any action. Yeah. There's hardly any explosions, any fights, nothing like that. So the second one, maybe it blew us out of the water because it was a different kind of movie. Maybe that's like we were so blown away by the first one because it was so good, so incredible, and it was in some way, like the Bourne Identity. It was like, well, that was really good, the second one, but it didn't beat the first one. Now I can't wait for the third one because we kind of knew it was coming. At the time of Mission Impossible, we didn't. So maybe that's to do with the fact that it's become one of the biggest franchises in the world. I cannot wait for part 2. I'm going to keep calling it part 2. We've had Christopher McQuarrie on the podcast, and we talked with him for an hour about making, Mission Impossible and all the other movies he's made as well. And it was one of the best moments of my life, sitting in a room with him, just listening to him talk about story, craft, and creativity. And you couldn't get a word in edgeways for one, but he was just an incredible guy.
And this is sort of the whole reason I love this podcast and love talking about movies in general, is because what I enjoy from a movie is something different to someone else. And so to listen to what you love about Mission Impossible 2, makes me appreciate that movie more. Even if I didn't enjoy it, it does make me want to watch it. It does go, I want to see what you see in it, that's
we should have a watch along. But I also think that that's what's really cool about movies and why we like them, and what I said at the beginning, which was, it depends where you are in your life. Yeah. And why you'd like a movie and not like a movie, what's happening with you at the time. Hudson Hawk has a special place in my heart.
Absolutely.
I specifically remember watching Mission Impossible 2 in Harlow, getting the train back from Stortford and walking across. This is a really weird memory I've made. Walking across to an empty car park with a bunch of my friends, just talking about it and discussing how much we liked it at the time.
Yes,
I think it hasn't aged as brilliantly, but I do remember. And I went and bought the soundtrack, so I must have liked it enough.
I think the soundtrack's the best thing. The soundtrack to that movie is good.
You need to watch this again, Rich. You need to watch it again and wash your mouth out. Independence Day was that movie for me. I remember coming out of Independence Day and having a conversation for hours afterwards and looking up at the sky, and watched that in a big cinema full of people and just coming out and going, oh, that's a movie. That, again, why I love movies and why I love cinema is because you get blown away by getting taken out of your life for time, and you can be on this journey. Dune 2, as much as it and Dune to a certain extent, I needed to read the books. I don't understand them, but I watched it and just been blown away by the spectacle. The same with Fury Road. It's like, what the hell's going on? I don't care. I'm watching this because I love this movie. Tenet the same. What the hell? But who cares? This is cinema. And this is important for us as people, and to talk about and just feel alive. We can all watch something in our home.
And from that, this is now, what is your worst ever sequel?
Right.
Because I think we're like, cinema's great, brilliant.
And then this.
I struggled with this one as well, because I again, like I said, as you can tell, I love movies and I love the craft of what goes into movies. And I know that no one sets out to make a bad film. 100%, no one does. Everyone at the start, when they say yes, whether it's for the paycheck, for whatever reason, doesn't come into it expecting to make a bad movie. Things go wrong, things happen, studios get involved, director doesn't want to do it anymore, the lead actors fall in love and hate each other. All these things can happen to make a film not good enough. Usually in the post-production edit stage is where it often becomes even the most problematic, when studios or producers get involved more than they should sometimes, or director goes in a different direction to the movie he pitched. That's often the reason why studios and directors fall out, is because the film they intended to make was not the film that ends up in the edit room. And that's why studios then step in. Now, if you say you're going to make what you intended to make, it's harder for them to step in because you've done what you're supposed to do. So with that in mind, I struggled big time on worst, because I don't think anyone ever makes a worst film, and I hate to put it in that bracket just generally, because I these whole golden raspberries or whatever they're called, I massively disagree with them. I think it's disgusting. I hate it because, again, it's unfair on people. So with that in mind, I chose a movie that I don't think it will mind, and I don't think anyone will have a problem with, and it's Speed 2. And the main reason for that, and again, it's not a terrible movie, it's not the worst sequel, it's not but for me, as you said, why was because I was disappointed with going after Speed and loving it, to watching Speed 2 and going, oh, Sandra, no. And then, and again, I think is it Jim Caviezel? No, it's someone like that.
Jason Patrick.
Who we love. Nothing wrong with Jason Patrick. Great actor. Just he's not necessarily that kind of charisma for that kind of a part. And therefore it just juxtaposed with Sandra and the movie and what we'd seen before. And it's kind of a repeat. I think that would probably, again, it's not a bad film by any means, but I had to name something. So
I think it's just a lot of... Thank you for doing that. It's a lot of bad choices, I think, is the thing, isn't it? Like, it's not bad intentions, it's just poor choices. I mean, this movie was never supposed to be a Speed sequel anyway. It was written as a completely different movie, and then marketing is a thing, and they were like, well, let's make this movie, but we'll call it Speed 2. And
and because of that, it probably made some money, and that really is all that matters, in terms of a studio, what they think about. And if
that bad choice being that you can't call a movie about a cruise ship, which is notoriously slow, Speed 2.
2, because there's no speed.
Because the speed is lacking.
Very much lacking.
We're going to hit that ship in 4 weeks.
So brace yourselves, everyone. Oh dear, not a cinematic masterpiece. But again, like I say, it doesn't mean they didn't try. That doesn't mean they didn't want to make a good movie.
No, William Dafoe is definitely trying.
He is all in.
I've never known him not to be all in.
He's fantastic in that film,
isn't he? Yeah. Isn't he? He disturbed me so much in The Lighthouse. Saying the movie that isn't a horror is a horror is that one for me. The Lighthouse just went, I can't take this anymore. I don't like this. I feel. But Zeggers is also quite a unique man in himself. I was there at the screening. He then did the talk afterwards, and okay, now I get why this movie's like this.
Oh, really?
It's pretty intense, and it's very direct and very, very like the two characters in the movie. He's very, that way he came across anyway. Brilliant director.
I'd like to see his version of Speed too. So Speed is while we're talking, Speed has just, I think, celebrated its 30th year anniversary. So there's a lot of love for Speed at the moment.
Right. Okay.
Did you see Speed when you were younger?
Yeah, that's what I mean by why I didn't like Speed 2 as much, and why I put it in the bracket, because I was disappointed by a sequel. Like Back to the Future 2, I was not disappointed. I was just so excited that there's going to be another one after it, and where we're going, we don't need sequels, and it's just really cool, just brilliant. I can't go on about Back to the Future too much because it's so clever.
I love how you're
unbelievable. Yeah, I love how I brought it back to Back to the Future 2.
Did you see
Speed 2?
Did you pay money to see it in the cinema? This is what I want.
I have no idea, Dave. Honestly, I wish I could tell you. I can't remember what I did yesterday.
I was like, were you one of those people?
I remember watching Hudson Hawk in the cinema, but I don't remember watching
Speed
Speed 2. So I probably did. Like I say, I had one of those cards where you could go and see any movie, but for you paid monthly and you could constantly keep going. And I think it was around the time Speed 2 came out. And I literally went, back then I was an actor, so I'd go for an audition and then go, I'm in town. I'll go watch a movie. So whatever was on, I would watch. And in the cinema, and I just kept going and going. And so I watched so many movies in the noughties. It was the noughties, wasn't it?
What year was it? 98, I would say.
Speed 2.
Just around then.
I feel like it was, I don't know, I feel like it was late 90s, early noughties.
Right.
Let me have a look. I'll find it.
I think it must have been. It must have been around then.
97.
97.
Right. So that point, yeah, I was hanging around. So yeah, 97. Hanging around cinemas, sneaking in back entrances of cinemas. Yeah, that was me. Yeah, amazing. So it's it's a movie I won't talk about probably ever again. So I'm glad I had a chance.
That's fair enough. You're in good company. Lots of
me.
people have picked it. It's a popular worst sequel.
Yes.
We've had a few
it
people.
is. Oh, it's a popular one.
Yeah.
It might be it's up there with a Jurassic Park film. It's up there with a Star Wars film, and now Speed 2. We had Ian Nathan on the podcast once talking.
Yeah, I love Ian Nathan from Empire. Yeah,
he told us a wonderful story about how the rumor mill started when they were releasing it, and how you have to plan ahead in Empire, don't you, in months in advance to have a cover stars, and they were planning to have just Sandra Bullock on, and then the studio come back, they're like, can you have Jason Patrick with her as well? And they're like, I guess so. And then there was that massive gap between it being released in the UK and whatever, and they had to find out, like, is it as bad as everyone's saying it is? Because it's going to be on
we've
our
put
cover.
it on the cover.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the word came back was like, yes, it's
really, really terrible. It's really terrible.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Talking from a filmmaker's point of view, do you think they rushed, like, because it was 2 years, 95, I think the first one, 94. Do you think they had to rush a sequel to Speed out? Or
yeah, it was at a time when that was a thing, wasn't it? So they would rush sequels out because they knew the audience's attention or something else would come along. So there were a period in making movies where sequels were a thing.
Yeah.
People were okay to go watch sequels, and I believe that that's one of the reasons. Yes. Yeah. And it was probably in contract as well, because a lot of actors have in their contracts, your first option on a sequel, you're allowed to say yes or no, depending on the money. So that's what they get in most contracts.
Okay.
Most actors have, first right of refusal on sequels, especially big names like Sandra Bullock. So she will have done. So there will have been a release clause in the contract that if she wasn't in it, she'd have to be paid a certain amount of money. So therefore, it was probably easier for the studio to pay her to be in it.
do you think Keanu Reeves would have had that option?
Yes, and they probably had to pay him not to, though he wasn't as big a star at the time, so maybe not.
That's.
I mean, I don't know. I wasn't in that, but that's what a lot.
Yeah. It's just because your knowledge and stuff of how the system works.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's always said he turned it down, didn't he, Keanu, because he didn't like the script.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
So, which means they had to either pay him to get him out of that character, or they wrote him or wrote a new character, or he would have had first right refusal, but he could have just said no and they didn't pay him.
Yeah.
So I don't know with him, but Sandra will have definitely had some sort of release clause. If there's a sequel, she has to be paid.
Yeah. Apparently they all, her and Jason Patrick, got paid a huge amount of money, and they both did that film basically to greenlight their little personal projects on the side.
Yeah.
And so when you hear like that, you're like, I can understand why. One, you get a nice month in the Caribbean on holiday.
Yeah.
Be nice. And two, you're getting paid $7 million or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm. And you never know, the movie could be a hit.
Well, Speed was massive, wasn't it?
Right? It was so massive, unbelievably, really, when you think
every
about
screenwriter must have seen Speed, and then gone out and tried to write their own Speed movie.
Yeah.
And I can imagine the studio just getting like Speed on a plane, Speed on a motorbike, Speed on a train, Speed on a milk float or whatever. And then eventually they just landed, well, water's different.
Yeah. Totally. I think Steven Seagal had kind of ruined it a couple of years before as well, hadn't he? Didn't
Under
he make
Siege
a
2.
Under Siege 2. Yep. So there you go. So he'd done it. In fact, That's a worse sequel. Why didn't I pick that?
I don't think it is, honestly.
But on paper, if you're the actors coming back, on paper you've got like Jan de Bont's coming back. You know, he did Speed and he's done Twister in between, which Dave loves.
Love Twister.
And so on paper you're like, okay, that's, you know, that should work. And you know, we've got this idea, it's different, you know, but it's kind of coming back.
Had a healthy budget because they built a town or a city.
Willem Dafoe's the baddie. You know, this sounds like it should work.
Well, that's it. The studio will have set up to make money. Like I say, they didn't make it to not make money. They're paying actors lots of money.
$160 million budget. It's not a small amount of money.
That means they need to make $300 million back to cover marketing costs,
not.
especially those days. How much does it say it made?
$164 million to date.
Okay, well, that's only what IMDb's saying. They will have still sold that's just cinema.
Yeah, that's just box office.
So they will have still sold a shit ton on DVD. DVD wasn't around. VHS. They'll have, so they'll at TV rights. They'll have probably broken even on it. So therefore, it probably bankrolled their next movie.
Are you surprised we never had a Speed 3?
No, for that reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the reason. It's like the rights for it will all be tied up with writers. So therefore, for them to do a Speed 3 means they need to get the rights from all those writers and pay them something because they get first right refusal on sequels. So therefore, it doesn't work for the studio to do a Speed 3 because it might flop again. Yeah. So all the producers would be paying actors as well, potentially. Yeah. So there's a lot of, and there'll be so many writers on it, and so many writers then new writers want to be paid.
Yeah, I know this is going to be a hard question for you, and if you remember, but can you name a really bad bit you don't like when you really centered on them? Like, okay, this is not working.
What in the film?
In the film, yeah.
No, I've erased it all from my memory. I just knew it was terrible.
Man.
There was a bit though. I remember this might be again a false memory that's implanted in my head, but of Jason Patrick on some sort of speedboat at the time trying to chase the boat, and it was ridiculous because speedboat could go way faster. I don't know. I'm telling you, but there was some sort of stupid moment.
There's definitely a bit like that,
right?
He just went. That didn't make any sense, guys. What are you talking about? And
we had to go on. I don't know if you heard of a podcast. It's called Get Into Defoe You, and it's two guys, our friends, are going through William Dafoe's.
That sounds brilliant.
It is brilliant. It's got a very good chemistry. And we went on there and we did Speed 2. So this is why we know so much about Speed 2. Because
we've watched Speed 2 more than anyone should ever have to.
I talk about it now.
And talk about it. Oh dear, I feel sorry for you. It's like I say, no one intends to make a bad movie.
No, and there are clearly bits where like producers or studios afterwards have gone, we're going to do that differently. You know, there's a part where the boat crashes into the harbour and they've gone, this is not dramatic enough. Let's just put it in fast forwards. So everyone's running around comically, like sped up. And, you know, that's like...
They also used to take explosions or moments from other movies that they owned if there wasn't something that they wanted in there and put them in. So it happened a lot with sequels and stuff those days because they own the rights to something. So they would just put it in.
That makes sense.
It happens all the times in movies. You would not believe how many times it actually happens. This is quite an interesting bit, Trevor. Maybe you know this one on 10 Cloverfield Lane because you've probably talked about this quite a lot. But there's a scene where John Goodman is explaining the plot. It's a proper exposition.
Yeah.
And the shot is on our two characters for about 4 minutes. Maybe you've never noticed. Next time you watch it, notice. Yeah. Now, it was during the test screenings that the studios and people were saying, it doesn't make sense. We need to put this bit. We need this explanation. We need this bit. So they got John Goodman to re-record it, some ADR, explaining the plot. And then they put it over this shot. Now, the actors aren't reacting to what he's saying. They're brilliant in it, by the way. But just next time you watch it, check this out, because the director, who is fantastic, whose name
Dan Trachtenberg.
Dan Trachtenberg, who has been on the podcast as well. I know.
So jealous.
He said that he was in the sound mix, he was in there watching it, and he said, this will never work. I will give you all money back if this works, because there's no way the audience are going to buy this shot just sat on the two actors while he does an exposition for this amount of time. No one has ever noticed it. So it's things like this in movies that happen all the time. Like I say, next time you watch 10 Cloverfield Lane, look out for it. It's you're like that. Oh my God, this. And you never noticed before because it's done so well. It's
I'm
just
going to go and watch
brilliant.
it now.
Yeah, no, it's brought it up.
But this kind of thing happens in movies all the time where at the end they go, this doesn't make sense. We need to put something else in. We need to add this in. There's a scene in one of my movies, the studio just went, oh, we need to put this in. And it from a totally different, didn't shoot it. It's just in there.
Wow.
You go, that, yeah, it's just because they
I can imagine something like that happening in like the Police Academy films or something for some reason. That's the first one that came to my head.
Really? Like a big explosion.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Speed 2 moment.
Yeah.
Fast forwarding, it's in Police Academy.
Thank you for answering that. I know we've had Lewis Arnold, another director, on our podcast, and he also struggles with being the negative side because he knows how hard it is to make things. So thank you, Giles, for getting through that. There's no more negative stuff. Okay. But our next little question before the Dream sequel, got another little question for you, which is, what sequel seems like a bad idea, but you ended up liking?
Ooh, yes, that's a good one. Hobbit, right? I'm going with that because it's not necessarily a sequel, but it's part of your sequel world.
Yeah, we're on it.
And as much as The Hobbit was like, well, of course this will do really well, everyone was like, actually, no. It's the same sort of thing with the Star Wars thing. It's like, it's such a good world you've created. Now you're jumping back and you've got to introduce a whole new load of characters in this small amount of time. I thought it was a bad idea. It's not a bad idea because it's money, it's studio. Of course they're going to make it. But I loved it when everyone gave it so much crap and said it wasn't good. I actually really enjoyed it. I watched it with my oldest stepson and we really went, this is really good. We really digged it. We go, this is really good. Why is it getting crap? Yeah, the reason I think it got a lot of crap was because it was shot in the ratio they shot it at. Giving it that weird video home look effect, which just wasn't cinema.
It does have that kind of Hollyoaks kind of vibe, doesn't it?
Hollyoaks look, and that killed it and made the acting look weird, the sets look weird. But if you look past that, which we did eventually, we went, this is stupid, look at it. Actually, this story is great. And Martin Freeman is incredible in it.
He is incredible as Bilbo. It
really is. I don't think he gets enough love for how good he is in that part. I don't know if you've seen The Responder on TV.
But love it. It's great.
Unbelievable performance from Martin.
Absolutely.
Just so good.
And his accent is so it's so good as well. Like,
I can't believe it. My missus turned to me and went, but he's not from Liverpool, right? I said, yeah, I know. How good is that?
Yeah,
he's really good. Nailed it. And Philip Barantini's in it, who's the director of Boiling Point and Mate, and he's just really good.
Has he been on your podcast as well? So
he has, a couple of times. Sorry.
That's okay.
Name some more people. Go on. Don't,
all the people.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm very impressed. I think I went to a special screen of The Hobbit, like you said, and watched the 48 frames per second version. When it was the Leicester Cineworld in Leicester Square. It was when it was still 2 floors, and they've just put the Dolby Atmos on, so they were showing off Dolby Atmos with 48 frames a second at the same time.
Right.
It was I didn't like it that mad, but I appreciate parts of the story because The Hobbit's one of my favorite books. I mean, it's a much smaller book than Lord of the Rings, obviously, but I loved seeing the dinner table bit when the dwarfs keep knocking on. I know a lot of people get annoyed by that because it goes on for too long, and
it's petite. It feels very young.
And I love the going down the rapids bit. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, the rapids bit was really good and really hard to make. If you've ever filmed on water or anywhere like, it's really, really difficult and dangerous, and you have to have so many safety divers, and it's so precarious. If an actor goes under, you're right, okay, you have to, not only is it bad for them but annoying and they could drown, the fact is you now have to get them out, get the costume dry and get their hair dry. Well, that's ruined half a day, especially on the rapids. I couldn't believe how good it was. And just wondrous how they made it. There is a lovely behind the scenes of that moment. There's not enough on the ins and outs of the production value and the production team, which also never get too much love. But what they went through to create that on The Hobbit is spectacular. Interestingly, this is a lovely name drop for me here now, but it's not that cool. But anyway, it's kind of cool. I bumped into Guillermo del Toro. I saw him and stalked him for a minute in the airport when he was just about to direct. He's about to do The Hobbit. Brilliant. And I was like, I have to talk to him. Back then I was an actor. I was like, I have to talk to him. I have to just go over and just say, hey, I love your work. And I built up the courage and I could hear him. When you'd not, back then there wasn't any pictures of him. The internet wasn't necessarily a thing, so you weren't sure. But I was like, I read Empire magazine. I'm aware of who this man is. No one was bothering him. I just went and I heard him speaking Mexican on the phone. I think it was in Spanish at the time, but I was like, it must be him. Anyway, I just went over and had a chat, and he was amazing. He was so nice and so lovely and so just friendly and warm. And I just went away feeling amazing.
Oh.
So yeah, that was my Hobbit before then he then stepped down.
Would you have liked to seen that version of the Hobbit?
I would love
a Del Toro Hobbit.
Love to have seen a Del Toro Hobbit.
That would have been something.
I can see why he stepped away, though. I can see why he wasn't able to make the movie he wanted to make. So I could see why he stepped away from
I'm not sure Peter Jackson made the films he wanted to make either. I've read the Ian Nathan book about it and stuff.
Yeah, I have too.
It's cracking, by the way.
It's a great
that book is brilliant.
Is it to Mordor? No, to Somewhere and Back.
It's over there somewhere. It's behind all my.
Yeah, mine's down there somewhere. It's just brilliant.
And I think that I think Peter Jackson kind of got pushed into it a little bit, especially not as much pre-production time as he wanted that he had on the original Lord of the Rings trilogy.
It just doesn't. I guess the whole thing with the Hobbit, and I think why a lot of people say it's a bad movie. I agree with you. I don't actually think it's a bad movie.
I think it's
quite
the best of the three of that trilogy.
Yeah. The first one is definitely.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people, it doesn't feel as epically grand as Lord of the Rings, I guess. The scale feels smaller, but I think that's okay. I think that the Hobbit story, the scale is smaller. I think
that's... It's made for children.
Yeah, it's a children's book, exactly.
So therefore he did that, whereas everyone was expecting it to be big. That's, again, one of these things we talk about, these disappointing sequels some way, because you've set this bar.
It's a high bar as well.
Hard. And most sequels get made because that bar was so good, that the movie was so good, therefore we love that. Die Hard 2 is probably the only ones that I really love as it's, in terms of it did what the first one did in that sense, apart from all the other ones I've mentioned as well. But do you know what I mean? Die Hard 2 is a really good one, but I know many people have mentioned that one, so I'm not going to. But it's just clever filmmaking.
Do you know not many people have mentioned Die Hard 2?
No, they haven't actually.
Damn.
The only time it's been mentioned is like the whole movie wouldn't happen if like John McClane just notices the present being passed over in the
Nick Howard,
right at the beginning.
But again, of course. But then most movies wouldn't happen if someone stopped the person straight away or didn't. This is what movies are amazing about: is the audience might notice something we don't. That's clever. Zodiac. We talked about earlier. Sounds of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Would this have happened if they knew where he was and the person straight away, and he'd told them straight away? All that kind of good stuff. That's what makes movies amazing. We can do that. We're the ones who can tell the story.
Yeah.
We're the ones who can give the audience a little bit and take it away and give them red herrings and pull it back. That's the magic of making movies and why it's so difficult.
Yes.
If it was easy, everyone would do it.
Exactly.
Everyone tried.
Yeah.
Everyone would succeed. I suppose is the question here. I found the book I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
This is The Empire Strikes Back.
Look how old that is.
Look at that. That's literally from 1970.
A journal of the making of The Empire Strikes Back.
Amazing.
It's unbelievable. And this is by Alan Arnold. And he's literally on set the whole time. And there's pictures and everything. It's fantastic.
I'm going to try and find
it. It's such a good little, spellbinding. Locations. He's on frozen locations at the beginning going, and it's the sequel. So everyone's coming back happy and excited.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So that's a good sequel. Anyway.
Moving on. It is a good sequel.
What is your dream sequel?
Dream sequel. I had a lot of fun with this one. I think I being a movie fan, I'm like, oh god, I could make this movie. I could do this one. I as much as I've made a lot of horrors and I've made a lot of action and thrillers and that kind of vibe, I'm a big sucker for rom-com. I'm a big sucker for just sitting down and watching something that just I love and laugh and enjoy and want the two people to get together. With that in mind, I'd love to do a Jerry Maguire Part 2.
Yes.
Jerry Maguire is such a good movie. It's, again, we talked Tom Cruise.
We've talked a lot of Tom Cruise.
We love Tom Cruise. He's just good at what he does. You can't name many bad Tom Cruise movies. That's the thing. Even the bad ones are still good. You know what I mean? The ones everyone goes, it's still good. It's still good. Tom Cruise is still brilliant in it. And Jerry Maguire is one of those ones that in the pantheon of amazing Tom Cruise films might not be in many people's top tens because there's so many. However, for me, it's just the movie is just brilliant. There's so many one-liners that we still use today.
Yeah.
We still use them.
Yeah.
Cameron Crowe delivered an amazing movie with a lot of unknowns at the time, semi-unknowns. Renée Zellweger, no one had heard of her, really. To put her in the lead when so many other people were for this role. And I just want to know where they are now. What happened with the goldfish? What happened with them? Where did they go on that journey? You know, the little boy, what happened to him?
Yeah.
Well, we know he was an older actor now. He's still working. But anyway, was it
Yeah,
Lipnicki?
Jonathan
Wasn't that
Lipnicki.
Jonathan Lipnicki.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be interesting to now see where the character, Tom Cruise's character, is now?
Oh, yes.
Would they be divorced? You know, the fact that Dorothy had a divorce group at the beginning, even though she wasn't divorced, that was what her sister was doing in this whole sort of setup of, you know, women, men hating men, and how things have changed now in today's society as well, and how that would be. What would be the setup now within that world? Would it be a men's divorce group? Would it, you know what I mean? Where would you go with this? What kind of one-liners would you find in here? And what's happening with Rod Sidwell, isn't it? You know, Cuba Gooding Jr's character.
And Regina King is so
Regina
good.
King.
She's so good in this movie.
Baby, no, baby. Just the lines are unbelievable. You know, that when Tom Cruise comes back and says the line, "Hello, I'm looking for my wife," we just go,
yeah.
We are focused. We are in, and again, brilliant directing to have all these women in the room at that point, all not paying attention to him, just go, and then suddenly all the focus is on him. And that is really clever, because not once does they only will look at Dorothy's character. That's great. There's nothing distracting from this moment and what's happening, and the fantastic lines here. You know, you had me at hello, and all the ones just before that as well. Unbelievable. You know, you are my ambassador of Quam. You know, all the stuff that what's his face Dickie Fox does as well to camera. He's speaking to camera. That's a real person talking to camera.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it would just be as sequels go. I would watch that in a heartbeat, even if it was as good as Speed 2. I would still be going, I don't care. I got to see those characters again, and I thoroughly enjoyed their lives. So yes,
because even on the other side of the sport thing, sport has changed dramatically as well, and you can go into the esports, like Jerry Maguire getting confused about that maybe as well, and just how cutthroat that industry is and how much money sportsmen make. I think I would like to see a Jerry Maguire sequel. When you wrote it down, I'd never had really thought about it, and then I was like, oh, hang on, oh no, we could do, you could do something here.
You could do something. Yeah, if they're doing it with Bridget Jones, you can do it here. You know, it's kind of like what's next. I don't think they ever will, and probably never should. But the fact is, we can visualize that. And if someone said, "Hey, here's a blank check, Giles, what do you want to go make?"
I'll get Tom.
I'd probably do The Hobbit. Yeah. The Hobbit with Tom Cruise. No, I would. You know, if I had a blank check, I don't think I'd make this movie. But I definitely would see it, and I'd love to see what Cameron Crowe would do with it now when he's an older man, if you like, and Tom Cruise and the characters are.
It'd be good to make a movie that could pass the Bechdel test, right? Because literally every woman in this movie just talks about men.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're so right.
But, I mean, it's still a great movie. I didn't watch it for a long time, so I rewatched it preparing for today, and I was like, I remember watching this in the cinema. I wanted to be a sports agent for so long. So I thought, that's what I want to do. Yeah. I'm not going to be a brilliant sportsman, but I could do that bit. Totally. It just made you believe in things. And I think what's good about that movie, and you're right, it wouldn't pass the test now at all. But what's good about the movie is that it gives you, as a layman, as an ordinary person, the opportunity to say, well, hang on, if Tom Cruise can leave that amazing, powerful job and be at rock bottom, but yet start again and succeed, I can too. And I think that's what's empowering about the movie. And you wanted to see him succeed. You wanted to see him do well. Yeah. And I think that's what we like about movies. We want that. And he's imperfect. He's not a perfect hero.
He really is.
He makes loads of mistakes. Right. He's a bit of a dick. And you still like him.
He's more than a bit of a dick. He's terrible to Dorothy. The way he treats her, the way he talks to her. That moody bit in the bed when you're like, what are you doing? And she's so lovely to him. Yeah. And he's just like, I don't know what's going on, man. And you're like, why? But yet, that's what's good about movies, right? We fall in love with characters. We fall in love with the people. And it doesn't matter how bad people are in certain things. Like, say, some of the favorite characters in the world from TV and movies are the worst ones, right? We still love to hate them or love to love them. And Jerry Maguire is one of those that would just be I don't know, just be cool, wouldn't it?
But I would love to see a sequel to this. Maybe Rod Tidwell's has joined him as an agent.
Rod's a commentator.
He's a commentator. Oh, now he's managing his media career. Like, yeah, that's nice. I like that. Like, Bob Sugar's in prison.
Bob Sugar.
You could have his son as the, working with him as well now with the family business.
Yeah, you could. Jay Moore, what's Jay Moore doing? Generally, what is Jay Moore doing?
Yeah, exactly.
So good as an arsehole in this movie. What is he actually doing as an actor? No, because he was he was in Go as well, and you were like, this actor's amazing. How cool
Weirdly,
is he?
I don't know if you watch Ghost Adventures, but he turned up in an episode of Ghost Adventures I watched the other day.
Did he?
Right.
Yeah, they were investigating at the comedy club in LA, and he was talking about his experiences in the comedy club. That's the last time I saw Jay Moore.
He was in Air, like the
Air was good. Yeah,
he was in
that,
Air, but not for long.
Yeah,
that's a good film.
It's a good film. Maybe he doesn't want to. That's the thing as well. When sometimes we go, "Oh, what happened to that actor?" Well,
he was a comedian originally, wasn't he? So maybe he's
gone back to that. Yeah, it's just sometimes people don't like it. It's pretty shit. There's a lot of shit as to being a film star or being in movies as well. It's not all roses.
It is a job.
Sometimes
people
go, "Yeah, I don't fancy it." Yeah.
I have this talk with my son all the time, and he's like, "But I just want to be famous." I'm like, "I don't think you do. I don't think you do, mate." Like, he's like, "Oh, no, going to be a famous YouTuber, and everyone's going to know who I am." And I'm like, "No, I don't think you're like that."
No, because then everyone knows everything you're doing and will mock you for all those small little things. You don't. Yeah. People are jealous of you instantly. You do not want that life. It's not cool. I know so many people who have done really well, and they all say the same thing. No, this is not enjoyable. I have to tolerate this. I have to be nice to people in a bar or in a restaurant. I have to sign autographs because otherwise there'll be a story about me that this happens and suddenly I get reputation. And so that's why if someone ever says this person's a dick or whatever, they're not good to it. We'll always get a second opinion because they just might have been having a bad day.
Yes.
Just gone, I've had enough of this. I've signed 17 of these Star Wars, Luke Skywalker, plastic figures all day. And I've had enough of this last person who asked me just when I was in the middle of an argument with my...
Amazing. One last question, Jen Maguire. When would you have liked to seen that sequel? Would you have liked... When was it released, Rich, originally?
96.
Yeah, 96.
I'm there.
So would you want it in like the early 2000s, 2010, or even now?
I want it now.
Wow.
I want it now, Dave. I want to see this now. I want to know what they're doing now. It would have been lovely to see one in 2000s, sure. But it's a bit like Bridget Jones. We sort of bounce along with it and we go, yeah, it's cool, it's nice.
And they all look great still, and they could all still do it.
Yeah, of course they could. Seeing it now would be fascinating because we've moved on. Like I say, the whole world has changed. Me Too movement's changed everything, but so many other things have changed massively too.
Technology.
So this... Technology for one.
Internet is a thing now. That wasn't in 96.
I know. Who knew? We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be podcasting without this. So there you go.
Those were Giles Alderson's Unequal Sequels. I can't believe we are at episode 10. And we've just finished episode 10. And I also can't believe this is the first time we've talked about Silence of the Lambs.
It's surprising, and it does feel like a little bit of a raw break in some ways, but in some ways it's not. So
it's not a raw break. It is a sequel.
It's just different cast, different Hannibal, different... It's the second book, right? Or whatever.
Yeah, it's the second book. I think Red Dragon's the first book, isn't it?
What's Maneater? Because that Maneater's the first film.
Manhunter. I can't remember. Anyway, I can't remember. Maybe Red Dragon's the third book. I don't know. There are these movies. That Silence of the Lambs, the second one. It is a sequel. It counts. There.
Red Dragon is it'll be the fourth film, but I think it's a prequel.
Okay.
But then there's also a fifth Hannibal film, which is a prequel to everything, where you find the origins of Hannibal Lecter, and it's bad. It's really bad.
All right.
But anyway, let's not talk about that one. Let's talk about how good Silence of the Lambs is. People were like, why did you let Silence? Because Silence of the Lambs is brilliant. And anytime I get to talk about Silence of the Lambs and Anthony Hopkins as that character, is an absolute treat. Because I love that film.
And it's one that proper filmy people would think of as a sequel, I think. But
yes.
Lots of other people would be like, what do you mean Silence of the Lambs is a sequel? I think a lot of people wouldn't realise it and wouldn't class it as that.
Yeah. But we've let the rules slip and slide all over the place in this podcast.
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course we have. Yeah, it's fine.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, I loved Giles' reasoning why he saw it. We think he skipped into it when he was too young and he sneaked into a cinema to watch it, basically.
Yeah, probably.
And I saw it quite young and it scared the shit out of me when I was quite young. So I can't imagine what it did to him. And yeah, it's a great sequel. It's definitely up there, I think, in the running of, one of the best ever, I think. I think it'll come up a few more times in the future. That's not a spoiler, by the way. I think more people will pick it. But also, we have to talk about the worst sequel again.
And it's one we've talked about a lot, because not only has it come up 3 or 4 times, I think, on the pod.
It's once a season, isn't it? Yeah.
But it's also one that we've talked about on the Getting Defoe You podcast. So not only have we talked about Speed 2, the absolute pile of toilet, on our own podcast, we've also gone and spoken about it on other podcasts.
Yes.
We are glutton for punishment, man.
Did you watch it again for this one? I bet you didn't,
No.
did you?
No, I've watched it enough.
I feel like I've seen Speed 2 enough now for most men and women.
Yeah. I've seen Speed 2 more times than anyone should have to watch Speed 2, and I think I've watched it 3 times.
I think I've watched it 5 times. I really do.
Wow, that's dedication, mate.
Yeah, it's a really bad sequel, and it's going to keep coming up for a variety of reasons, and I think mainly it's because the drop-off is so big from the first one.
Yeah.
Speed is
and there's just
brilliant.
So many bits in it that you're like, oh, that's terrible. Or there's also, if you wanted to pick out like what makes a movie bad, Speed 2 has all the things. Like,
yes.
All the things.
Oh my God, we're going 20 knots. And at no point do they describe how fast 20 knots is.
That's slightly faster than walking pace.
It's about 16 miles an hour or something. I found out.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something mental like that. So it doesn't feel like it's going super quick. But it's the power behind the ship, Rich.
Mm-hmm.
When I have to rewatch it, I just grab onto William Dafoe in that film and think he's having such a good time.
Yeah, I mean, Willem Dafoe's overacting is probably the saviour of the movie.
Yeah, big time. Big time. And then Dream, mate. Jerry Maguire. Again.
Jerry Maguire, yeah.
Didn't think of it beforehand.
No, not one I'd thought of, I've got to be honest.
But the way he talks about it and describes it, I think I'd like to see it. Because the world has changed so much from 1996, like with the internet and, all that stuff, YouTube and esports and how big football is and all sports and how good Tom Cruise and Renée Zellweger are still good. I think there's legs in this script yet. It's never going to happen. But
No.
One can dream.
Indeed.
If you liked Giles, go check out his movies. He's directed and produced and written and starred in, and he's a great guy. Go listen to the Filmmakers podcast, which is a fantastic podcast for anyone interested in filmmaking. The amount of information, useful information in it for people who just want to make films or even try and make films or understand how the business works from people who are actually in the business is incredible. And then on top of that, and this bit they get brilliant guests.
Oh yeah, they really do.
Brilliant guests.
Yeah.
Directors, actors.
They've had Stephen Fry on. They've had Stephen Fry as a guest. Like they've had Lord and Miller. They've had Sir Ian McKellen. Like it's mad. The guests they've had on there.
Simon Pegg, Dan Trachtenberg. They've had them all, these people, and I'm quite jealous of all of them, to be honest. Yeah. It's such a useful tool, and it's also entertaining and knowledgeable. So if that's your kind of thing, go check out the Filmmakers podcast. Like we said, it's just past the 400th episode mark. Me and Rich know how hard that is to do to get even close to 400. So anyone who gets past that mark.
What are we on now?
265 or no, we're above that now because when this episode's out, about 267, 268. If we put all our episodes together, Rich, including Never a Slice, we're above 300 somewhere.
Okay. But I mean, like 70. This is our 70th interview episode.
Yes.
This is number 70.
And I've just edited 167 or bonus episode.
Ooh.
So, something like that. So go check that out. And Rich is now going to tell you other things.
Yeah, I was going to say, whilst you're checking it out, then you may as well hit the subscribe button, hit the auto-download button. We'll drop into your pod player of choice every single week. Also, if you want to hear a load of those extra episodes we've been talking about, then get yourself onto anotherslice.com/unequal sequel, where not only do you get a sequel session for each one of our interview episodes going back to season 4, but also you'll get Disenfranchised and Box Set Mentality as well. So 3 extra podcasts for just $2.99 a month. What a bargain. Honestly, like I don't know. We're giving this away, mate. We have to up our prices, I reckon, for all this quality. If that's not your bag, if you're just here for a bit of fun, then get on social media for us. There's something you can do for absolutely free, which is tell your friends about the podcast. Just spread the word, link us on social media, get people to listen. We'll really appreciate you. That would be amazing. We are on all the social medias. You just have to @Unequal Sequel or search Unequal Sequel in the sidebar and you will find us. If you don't do social media but you want to get in touch and let us know what you thought about Giles's picks, then you can do that on unequalsequel@hotmail.com. And we will read out all your comments in our end of month roundup.
Lovely. Well done, sir. Thank you, everyone, for listening and supporting the podcast. You guys are great. Yeah?
Oh, you went all Tony the Tiger.
That was my reference.
Have you been watching Unfrosted?
No, I haven't yet, but I should do. Thank you, guys, for all your comments and emails and whatever. We really appreciate that. Thank you for the continuous support. Get out there, make some noise for us. It really helps us because social media is difficult. Got nothing else to say. Check out Another Slice, like Rich said. I'm going to say it's a goodbye from me, bye-bye, and a goodbye from him.
Bye!
See you in the next one. See this one. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
I wonder if you could do a Silence of the Lambs, Jerry Maguire crossover.
Maybe. I mean, weirdest things.
Jerry's representing a sports star who gets eaten by Hannibal Lecter.
I'd watch it. Okay, here we go. I've been told to make a trailer, and they said to make it impactful and memorable. So here we go. My name is Dave Curtis, and I will guarantee you probably haven't heard of me, but I host a podcast called Unequal Sequel, and I love movies. Well, this is a new podcast. If you can do something, it's better to do something impossible, because it feels good. Well, I've set myself a mission impossible. You'll see why that's clever in a minute. You may not know it, but Tom Cruise sends loads of people a cake at Christmas. I have set myself a quest to get Tom Cruise to send me that cake. How, you're asking? How, Dave? How is that going to happen? Well, you have to listen to the podcast and find out. That's literally what the podcast is about. It's about Tom Cruise, his career, and me getting the cake from Tom Cruise. Sounds fun, doesn't it? How about you listen along? It's called The Great Tom Cruise Cake Quest. And it will be available wherever you get your podcasts. I don't know about you, but I think I nailed that.